Okay, hi everybody. My name is Asha EASTON and I'm the head of Immerse UK, and I'm going to be your host today for the remote work stage, and going to be moderating the panel after all of the presentations are finished. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an introduction to Immerse UK, who we are, what we do, and why I'm here today. So Immerse UK is the largest network of immersive tech professionals in the United Kingdom. We sit under the umbrella of another organization called the Knowledge Transfer Network. And the best way to describe the KTN is that it's like a hive mind of experts, kind of in every industry, all under one roof. And the purpose of the KTN is to facilitate cross-sector innovation and to help UK businesses to scale. So the KTN is primarily funded by Innovate UK, which is part of the government that does research and development grant funding. And so we help companies kind of access R&D money and help facilitate the right connections to make innovation happen. So Immerse UK was set up under the umbrella of the KTN in 2016, basically to help position the UK as a world leader in immersive tech, facilitate the right connections to make that happen, and to help spread the technology across different industries. So we're very, very proud of the work that we've done over the years. This is these are our founding members who are incredible and have been very, very supportive over the years. And so that's just to give you a little background of what our organization does and who we are. So why am I here today? Well, I want to tell you a bit of a story about what's been going on in the industry. For everyone who's in it, you might know, maybe some don't. Basically, when South by was canceled a few weeks ago, I can't believe it's only been a few weeks. It feels a lot longer than that. There was this kind of online wave that happened on Twitter and Facebook and WhatsApp groups and all these industry groups that I was in. People were just saying we should put it in VR. We should try and move the VR section at least into there. And literally overnight, a group of over 150 immersive professionals from around the world kind of were corralled together into a WhatsApp group and into a few online forums to try and move South by into VR, which, as you can imagine, there was like a week-long window or something to try and attempt to pull this off. And people literally started working through the night, trying to come up with solutions for South by, getting in touch with the organizers, seeing if there was anything we could do to help. And I have to say, it was kind of one of the most beautiful moments for me in the industry, because the spirit of the people who got involved was so incredible. And ultimately, everyone was willing to put all their time and energy into pulling off pretty much the impossible in a week. And they had their fingers on the go button ready to do it. Ultimately, that didn't happen, but the energy of that community really maintained, and the momentum kept moving forward, which was really cool. And it turned into a WhatsApp group called Embrace Online XR. And this kind of energy, people were like, well, what do we do now? We've all been researching all these different platforms, what we could have used. And this kind of snowballed into something called Zero events, where all of these people in this community just started to stress test different platforms together. We just started meeting up at all the different remote social VR platforms available, or remote working platforms, and just seeing what their capabilities are, and kind of just having fun together, but also for a purpose of understanding what was out there. So that's what kind of started happening over the last weeks. And, it was very organically done. It was quite haphazard, to be honest with you, at first. But the thing that I found that was so incredible that came from it were the number of collaborations that came from it and the tangible results. So, for example, Harriet, one of the organizers of Laval, was part of that group, and I believe there were a bunch of others from Laval. It sparked the inspiration to move Laval into VR on such a crazy short timeline. We had VR Voice and HP collaborate on a big a webinar series where they had platform owners come and talk about what they do. XR Base Investor Event, which is part of Laval, also came from this. At Immerse UK, we started a webinar series where we're looking at 2 platforms at a time, but instead of with platform owners, we're doing it with platform users and talking about the realities and limitations of using these platforms. Well, obviously the positive benefits, but also limitations of using these platforms, and trying to do it for the non-VR audience. There was Vroom and Stereopsia who collaborated on a festival called Break Down the Walls, where they were showing content in platforms and hosting parties. There was a great collaboration it's called the XR Collaboration, which was a partnership between Deutsche Telekom, the VR ARA. There's a whole list of organizations. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later today, who put out an incredible document to try and help non-VR people to understand, because I think everyone who's in this industry has seen the incredible spike in interest in using VR platforms for remote work, given what's been going on in the world. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know at what point I got cut off there, but can you tell me?
I think it was like after stress testing the platforms and the events that you were organizing.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry, guys. And this is the funny part about this. I guess I just proved my own point here about some of the limitations, and just so this is what we did. This is what's kind of come from it. It's been a really incredible time in the industry, I think, and I think this is a really great opportunity to prove what VR can do. And I think also, I mean, as we all know, the industry, the market is still pretty small and limited because headsets are not necessarily too widespread yet. But I think we have an opportunity in this moment in time to set the groundwork and do the right education piece for non-VR users, so that we can set the stage for when the COVID crisis comes to an end, hopefully sooner rather than later, and companies will then maybe take the next step to try and implement VR in their businesses and roll it out at scale. So I think there's a short-term piece in preparing for that, and then a longer-term piece in helping with that deployment once it's feasible. So that's just an introduction. We have 4 great speakers today who are going to be presenting their platforms, and then we're going to have them all come back at the end for a panel discussion with myself and Terry SCHUSSLER from Deutsche Telekom. We're going to co-moderate that panel. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Jonny COSGROVE from MEETING VR, and he's going to jump up on stage. Jonny? Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
okay. Thank you. Just to make sure. So very clear. I'm going to kick this off today, and thanks very much everyone for joining us this nice and early hour. I'm not actually going to be doing a product pitch today. I'm looking at this more in terms of a bit of a story about remote work and where all this fits in. I think there might be one image of a meeting room in here, but we'll kick into that in a minute. Listen, thanks very much for everyone taking your time today and joining us here. Let me just make sure my own slides are now working. Sorry. There we go. So when we talk about the future of work, many things come to mind. Empty cities, kind of like we've been seeing the last few weeks. Living in the cloud. Robots taking our jobs. Remote beards getting a bit more mainstream. And ultimately, disconnection. And lots of digital nomads. What I'm here today to talk to you about is separating reality from the dream space and saying where we are today versus where we might be tomorrow. My name is Jonny COSGROVE. I'm the CEO of MEETINGROOM.io, and this is how I used to attend conferences. My own background and my own bias to throw my cards on the table. For me, it's not about the technology. It's about augmenting humans and actually making sure that we get to live in the real world, not necessarily live in VR all day, every day. And I'm going to blame Mr. Picard here for far too much daytime television when I was a kid and putting these notions in my head. This is how I'm attending today. This is how I've been attending a lot of calls, and I'm sure everyone else here in the room is the same for the last number of weeks. But in terms of pre-COVID, that time that we all don't quite remember, what we found was that where work is happening and how it's happening is changing, and it's changing really fast. Working from home used to be for the elite, used to be for the Jedi Council of your company, but now, as most of you are already calling it today, everyone can come in a comfortable way. That means that you can not so much worry about what your suit looks like today, but more so about the content that you're sharing on a video conference call or in a virtual meeting or a virtual conference just like this. Because for us and for, more importantly, our customers, work is not about the place you go to. Work is about the output you bring to your organization and about what you do. More importantly, and especially for talent in this day and age, it's about having a balance. It's about having time for your family, having time for actually getting to do the things that are important, as well as, most importantly, in the commercial sense, getting back to work. And work takes many different forms. Point of remote work, the point of what all of us are here today to talk about, is that you can have a life and you can succeed and you can make an impact. And the power of what remote work, locationist, whatever you want to call it, point is, it gives you the power to contribute and participate from anywhere in a real and effective way. And it's been growing for years. We are going through a current wave of evangelism, and it's fantastic. We need more people talking about this kind of thing. And it's not going anywhere. The genie is out of the bottle. But we have to bring it back to first principles. Why are we all here today? Why are we doing what we do? And not just because of the pandemic that's going on, but prior to all this. It's about getting around the table, getting around the campfire, planning the hunt. That hasn't changed so much over the years. The format might have changed. Is my sound still working there okay? Perfect, sorry, just got a yellow option here. So it hasn't changed all that much along the way. The format's changed, clothes might have changed. The decisions and the power behind them haven't. And in the future, I'm sure it'll get even more interesting as we go along, as we get a wider breadth of being able to bring more people together in a real way. And in the future, we will all be feeling this pressure at the top and the bottom of the board table. And that will come. Point of where we are now, and what's really important is we need to take a reality check and make sure we know where VR and virtual collaboration is today versus tomorrow. And looking back at what really matters for most advances in technology or workplace life is the cost factor, the human factor, and all those things you can imagine. But really, it comes down to the problem you're trying to solve. The problem that we focused on is that the office is changing. It's moved from the cubicle to the open plan office over the last number of years. What's coming next is to move to the virtual and the co-working space as people have to adjust for what the office looks like after all this. And group collaboration, when I first put this one together, it wasn't when we were all living on these calls all day, every single day as the only option. And things like Zoom tiredness has now become vernacular for people. And the point is, they're great for one-on-ones. They're great for one-to-many. When it comes to doing real work together, it can actually make things a little bit more difficult. But we have to acknowledge the saviors of today. These are the tools that people are using to get through this current crisis and have been setting the stage for all of us to move the virtual forward. Real world decisions are now being made in online meetings. This was not so 6 months ago. We are having real conversations for the last few years, be it around campfires and getting things going, to today where we have amazing social VR experiences to let you bring people together and actually have a real presence with people. Be that from playing paintball with your teammates to keep things moving and to build up that rapport outside of the office, or where we see this all going, which is welcoming in that virtual space of service, allowing people to get around the table. And this is a shot of our own platform meeting room that I have. letting people come in and around a table and make real decisions. And what we focus on in particular is small group collaboration. Think you're 3 to 12 to 20 people getting in a room or multiple spaces to solve different problems. It's not about the features in a room, it's about the problem that is solved by every one of our rooms, which is how we go from a design point of view. And what we tried to do in our very first week in business was kill our business by doing a test between the standard. This was started back in 2017 and was just published recently. And it was very simple. We went in to look at the difference between virtual reality as a medium and video calls. And we used Meetingroom versus Skype for Business. And what was amazing that came out of this was the proof points behind presence, people being a bit more intimate, and ultimately helping people be closer in these virtual spaces. And the reason we were doing this was because we could see that the office is changing. But what we didn't see was what the same as everyone else in this room, was what's been happening over the last few months, where people are physically being dragged out of the office against their will. Let's call it push as opposed to pull. And what the gaps that can be solved by things like virtual reality from a VR for work point of view is bringing back that office, bringing back the water cooler, bringing back those spontaneous conversations, not necessarily bumping into each other in the hallways. That'll be a little bit more difficult unless you're in a place as cool as this all the time. But when it comes to real human connection, having those decisions that don't happen in the meeting but outside, and all those in between. And really, we're trying to grab hold of the opportunity that we usually associate with everyone being in the office and beside each other in an office just like this. It's all really about knowledge transfer and making sure that decisions can keep getting made and we move forward. And VR for work is an amazing way as the next step to go beyond what we're doing today. Charlie Fink put it, this is a $1 trillion opportunity. And I fully believe that this is going to change the world in the long term. The question we have to ask ourselves, is there an audio issue for everyone? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Perfect, no worries, thank you. So the point is, and exactly the same as you said, Asha, this is a great point. We're not there yet. I used to run concerts for 10,000 people. I could physically not hold them today in VR. It would be a lovely YouTube or Twitch link. It would not necessarily be something we'd all be able to participate and engage in an equal way. And it's up to us, both those on stage and those who are here today. We're at that 1% as VR for work really begins to kick off. I'm excited. I'm very excited to share how over the next few years, how that's going to build. But the point is, it starts here. It starts with people actually solving real world problems, not just applying lots and lots of features to a particular room. Because we look at VR for work as the next competitive advantage. This year is going to be the year of enterprise VR kicking off, and all these things moving forward. And the point is, having your strategy around how to compete, how to maintain and gain that advantage is what the next few months are about. And for me, ultimately, the freakonomics of what's going to come out of all this, the spillover effect, while it might look nice and shiny, and I'm sure everyone came to the beginning of this conference, everyone came in with an idea of how shiny and amazing this can be. But what's really interesting is the juicy bits that we're starting to get into and what's going to come out over the next few years. And again, we're only at the 1%. As much as we all like to believe that we're in the mainstream right now, we're not. It's the beginning. And what we have to do is take advantage of what's going on and make sure we solve real world problems and bring it forward. So it's time to go into questions and answers. Hopefully we kept that nice and brief, but anyone who wants to get in touch, I'm always available for a virtual coffee, be that on a Zoom call or in Meetingroom. Feel free to reach out either later. I'll be around the conference for the day, or reach me on LinkedIn. Thanks very much, and I'll take any questions if that's okay.
Hi, so for the questions, if you don't have a mic or don't feel like talking, you can always write them in the public chat and we will read them out, or Jonny can directly maybe answer to them. Otherwise, if you want to ask them with your voice, could you please press on the right hand button, which is on the bottom side of the middle screen? It will raise your hand and I will see who you are, and I will call out your name and you could ask your questions. Don't be shy. We'll have time some for Q&A. I can see 2 people writing. So we'll probably have some questions very soon.
Perfect. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
And also, while questions are coming in, I just want to, if people want to give a wee clap at some point today, the organizers have broken themselves to get all this together. So I really appreciate it.
Here, I'll read the first question for you here.
Yes, go for it.
What is the biggest resistance from using virtual meetings in business, according to you?
Biggest resistance is people coming at it asking the question, how is this different to Zoom? How is it different to these items? And I've heard it a few times at different conferences over the last few months. This tech is not disruptionary in that respect. It's complementary to what we already do today. And trying to build brand new workflows rather than trying to work it in with existing workflows is a recipe for disaster. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I'd also say cross-platform deployment is a key. And I don't just mean giving everyone an ability to come in from different platforms. I mean that if you want to deploy to iPad, if you want to deploy to VR, if you want to come to desktop, you need to allow everyone to have all the same functionality in every single platform. And that is going to require certain sacrifices. But the point is, what works today is what's important today, and what works tomorrow will be important tomorrow. Building towards those use cases and limiting expectations, it's key.
Great answer. So what about the question of standards? Without standards, can this work?
I think it was Amod asked that in terms of standards, yes, there needs to be a level of standardization. And are we there yet? Nope, absolutely not. We're getting much closer to it, and I think in the XR collaboration world, that has really been driven up the priority list this quarter. But is it the year where we get all these standards set? Absolutely not. I think that's going to be down to the customers, and we're again only at the beginning of customers moving from proof of concept to pilot and beyond. And that's something we've been testing with our maturity model, which is called VR for Work. And it's bringing people to find that problem, and it's not assuming that they're going to be a long-term customer. You've got to assume that you've got a problem to solve. And at every stage, there's going to be more work to do. And this is over years, not weeks.
Yeah, nice. So the next one is, what do you think is more important, more realistic for virtual environments or integrating nonverbal communication?
Repeat that one more time, sorry?
Yeah, what do you think is more important, more realistic virtual environments or integrating nonverbal communication?
Function over flash every time. When I say limiting expectations, if you cannot do what you do in a real world meeting, then it is not a meeting. And certain things like this generation of VR, as we can all see here today, it's not great for giving facial feedback, and that's okay. That's why I say you're still going to do your one-on-ones on a video call because you want that human connection. But I don't believe that needing everything to work from, say, just desktop VR or just something high-powered is important. I think it's a case of making sure that the people who want to solve that problem can do it in an effective and reliable way from the lowest common denominator. And in that case, you're looking at probably 6 degrees of freedom wireless headsets, and it's a great starting point.
Yeah, that's great. And the other question here is, how much of a focus, well, you kind of answered it, but how much of a focus is visual fidelity for customers?
When you say visual fidelity, do you mean real life avatars? Are you talking about the actual environments, or is it everything in between?
I think you could do both, actually. They're kind of separate a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Well, our paper showed us at the beginning, because we were trying to ask that question at the beginning. And I know from our point of view, we will work with those who will bring higher quality rather than higher fidelity avatars in over time. We provide a professional, non-cartoony attempt at these things, because that's what people have come back and said, look, we don't need to deal with the uncanny valley in this generation of VR. Some people, and probably some people in this room, are solving and addressing that problem. But for us, what we found is approaching in the right way, introducing it into an organization the right way. That's important from an avatar point of view, and that is really key. And it is subjective for certain people, that you're not going to get the same stroke for every single folks. But when it comes to the actual environments, Again, I wouldn't say high fidelity. I think high quality is the point you have to focus on. What's the purpose of that room? What is the purpose of the assets you're bringing in? Do they need to be high quality, or do they need to be something that people can all engage with? And again, it really depends on the use cases, what you're doing. Certain industries such as AEC, and that will need something particularly high end. But what we always focus on is making sure that this works across platform, that it's always reliable. It doesn't make your Quest turn off because you uploaded too large a 360 image and things like that. But in terms of what customers feel, there is an education process to that. And again, the key, for not just us, but for the whole industry, is limit expectations about what is going to be true today and what will be true tomorrow.
Great. Are there any other questions?
So one question there about downloading. Just for meeting room guys and girls here, anyone who wants to join us, feel free to sign up on meeting.io. We haven't got self-service turned on at the moment. We are trying to preserve the first-time experience for everyone. And again, we are for large enterprise. We work with Fortune 500 companies, and we're currently going through deployments at the moment. So we try to make sure we get in the room with everyone the first time we meet. I give you a personal tour around, and I'd love to follow up on anyone who does want to try it out. But again, the focus for us, we're not looking to do events. I come from background events, and I just don't see it just yet being there. What we are focused on is small group collaboration, where those billion-dollar moments in terms of decision-making capabilities come out. And that's been the biggest thing that's been coming out for us over the last few months. It's not about spending longer in meetings. What one of our clients said the other day was, we spend less time in a meeting, but the outcomes are so much more powerful. And that's the power of this medium, of this format. Perfect. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to let you move on, and I look forward to joining the panel later on. Is that all right for everyone, or is there any other burning questions?
No, I think that's good. Thank you so
very
much, Jonny.
Thank you. So before the next panel, once again, please turn off your mic during the talks. Don't walk on the stage. And if when the new presenter will renew the middle screen, please press on the refresh button on the top right corner, and then you should be seeing.
Yeah. So we're actually a little early now, which is nice. We're going to next have Keith MELLINGEN from Rainfall speaking. So I'll just invite Keith to come up to the stage and get your slides up, and we can start in a couple of minutes.
All right. This is awesome. First time presenting virtually. I'm assuming it's like one of the first times you guys been to a 100% virtual conference, right? Seeing some nods there.
Jesus.
Who's that? That's Brian Waterford. All right. Okay, so I'll just start with the presentation. So what I'm going to present today is remote showroom. How we show our projects to clients that are not in the same region we're in. So I'm Keith MELLINGEN. I am the VR AR director in Rainfall. I am the founder of Virtual Reality Norway and the founder of VR and Drinks. And in Rainfall, we have several projects. We have projects geared towards architecture. We've done some projects for Deloitte. We also have some exposure therapy applications for height phobia. And we're doing training applications using the Tesla suit and HP backpacks, and also the Oculus Quest. We also do 360 videos. We did one for Marine Harvest. And the thing is that our projects are pretty diverse. So we have for architecture, training, 360 video. And for us, we go to several conferences and we want to show this to people. And one of the main struggles is that when you're showing something in VR is that you put on the VR headset on the client or the potential client, and they're in it, but you're not in it with them. And that creates a lot of user experience issues where they're in it, they're new to it, and they start pressing places, start ending up somewhere they're not supposed to be, and it can be kind of stressful, and it becomes a bad user experience. So we wanted to solve this, and the way we were thinking of solving this is the first step is how do you not have to, shut down an application and then reopen another application to show something else. So what we did was that we combined all our applications into one platform where we just put it in one place. And we created portals as portals with where you can see what you can expect. And that seems to help a lot. We've seen on several clients that they jump into the experience and they can easily understand that, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go. And they just click on it and they end up in the experience. So this seems to work very well. And we wanted to add up one step forward, and that's the multiplayer aspect. So we can go in there with them. And as you can see here, this is the HTC Vive. It can be kind of struggling to set up, but luckily the Oculus Quest has come, made it a lot easier. So we decided to then create a platform that was cross-platform. So it works both with the HTC Vive, Windows Mixed Reality, and Oculus Quest. And what happened was that coronavirus happened. So we were just doing this for a better user experience, a better way to show clients our projects while we're at booths. But since coronavirus came, all the events, all the booths, they were canceled. But then we decided, all right, since we already have multiplayer in our platform, we might as well just invite people all over the world and just join us. And this has been very productive. Not just, having like a meeting in VR with like a normal meeting table, but actually experiencing experiences. So you have a fully interactive project where you can then, if you see on the picture on the top left, you see that we're both extinguishing fire. On the bottom left, we're watching a 360 video, and then we're just exploring it. And I, as I mentioned a bit earlier, I'm the founder of VR and Drinks. VR and Drinks is a concept where once a month we go to a company that works with VR and we host an event there so that people inside the community then join and learn about what they're doing, and they would show their own projects. But because of Corona, everything got canceled, so we moved VR and Drinks into our virtual platform. This is Kim Baumann Larsen. He's a prominent person in Norway, well in the community. And what he was writing here was that Corona came and everyone was kind of staying inside, not being social. It was great to have VR and Drinks in VR, and for the first time we were able to have a VR and Drink that was across the whole of Norway. Because usually we only have it in Oslo or Bergen, not having the whole country. So it was great using virtual reality to connect the whole of Norway. And this was the first time you could do it. And you could really, for the first time, show your projects. Because in VR, you need to show VR by putting VR, being in VR. When it comes to distribution, the way we solved it is that for Quest, we just went through SideQuest, we uploaded it there. You can download it yourself and test it out. And for PC, there's just an exe link you get and you're inside it. That was it. And if there are any questions, feel free to ask.
Great. So
That's great, Keith.
thank you for your presentation. If you have any questions, you can type them, or otherwise raise your hand and I will call out your name and then you can ask them.
Small side note, there will be a Zero event, so either next week or the week after, we're gonna showcase the platform. You can check out the platform on SideQuest.
Nice. And Michael Buchner here asks, where was the remote showroom?
Like which platform, or what's your? So this, I mean, this was both shown on. This works on the Quest and works on all the VR headsets. The remote showroom itself, yes, it's cross-platform. It is.
Can you explain a little bit more the Zero event and when it is and how people can participate?
So it hasn't been quite confirmed yet, but the plan is either next week or the week after. If you're inside the XR Crowd WhatsApp group, there will be some information going on there.
Yeah, and if anyone in this room isn't in that WhatsApp group and you want the information, you can message either Keith or myself. We're in there, so we can just send it to you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, there is another question. So on paper, it's around 400, but we haven't tested 400 people yet. So it would be great to have more people.
Let's try and get 400 for the Zero event. Push it to its limit. I'll see you there.
On a side note, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, go for it. Go for it.
So one of which I didn't mention, one of the major benefits for us is that usually with the clients we've had has primarily been in Norway. We've primarily been talking with Norwegian clients, but because we now have this platform, it has become way more easier to talk internationally. So like just when Corona hit, we suddenly had meetings in England, Thailand, France. So this, I would say that would be one of the biggest advantages of doing it this way. All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Thank you so much. Okay. We're running quite early now, actually. And so I think we're going to take a short break, if that's okay. So we stay on time in case other people are coming in a bit later.
Or maybe during this, as we're about, I'd say, 15-ish minutes early.
Yeah.
Maybe some will have other questions from the public, maybe more towards you, towards your presentation, or are there any more general questions regarding the topic of the first 3 presentations that maybe we can discuss in the chat or discuss with you, Asha? That could be great to use this opportunity.
Yeah, sure. So if anyone has any questions about Immerse UK or anything else kind of going on in the VR world, really, let me know.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I've noticed a pattern, especially with the Western users, to really prefer photorealistic, in a way, avatars. Whereas in other parts of Asia, there is a preference for more like anime, like drawing avatars. And I've noticed also that the photorealistic avatars make people think that they're more serious, more professional in a way. And I wonder why we continue judging based on our looks, even in VR, where technically we could be anything and anything. Like I could be a dragon right now. Right?
That's a really good question.
So why do you think that's happening? Why do we continue preferring, especially in the West, photorealistic avatars? Why do they seem more like serious and professional with us? Whereas it's basically what we're saying that counts and not really how we look in 3D. What's your thoughts on that?
It's kind of like accounting. It depends. Just from a meter point of view, and what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years is, and I'll just pop up here. So it's a little, sorry, getting used to where we're supposed to be. Apologies.
No worries.
I think the point is, most of the time when people start off, they think they want to see themselves in real life, and the point we come at it from is this is not supposed to replace real life. This is not supposed to replace you in a meeting. And most people I know, we're in a conference right now that I was actually supposed to attend virtually all the time, but then we couldn't go into real life, obviously. But the point is, most people think they want photorealistic at the beginning. That's 9 times out of 10. That is gone past a proof of concept. Most people don't actually, after getting a bit deeper and after experiencing the technology, they realize this is not a replacement for the real life. This is actually there to augment everything in between. So when it comes to it, if you ask someone if they look like their car when they arrive in a real meeting, they might get a bit offended. It's finding that halfway house when it comes to avatars and making sure people are actually comfortable with their own one.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, John, can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're back.
I think I cut out for a second.
Right, we did
Can you
after.
hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you well. Although we did not hear what you said after I asked the question.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh no.
Oh, I can't hear you for some reason. Okay. Sorry, guys. Yeah, no, but I like Johnny's point earlier, just saying that, you know, functionality over beauty at the moment, because honestly, if you can't get the basics of the functionality right, I think that's the bigger issue, because people get frustrated right away and just put it down. But I think anyone coming into this at this point expecting that and photorealism they don't really understand the industry, and that's why I think the education piece is so important right now. Managing expectations and preparing people for what's functional. And so, yeah. Does anyone have any other questions?
I just wanted to say that it could be the association, so like cartoons. Well, like characters that look a bit more cartoonish.
Are most people
gives
in the room
association.
VR professionals? You can put it in the chat or you can raise your hands. Does everyone work in the industry? Is anyone here just kind of exploring, like for your business, for example? And yeah, anyone not in the industry?
Yes. I'm an anthropologist.
Great to hear. I've got to say, you know, from at Immerse UK over the last weeks, we have seen just the most incredible interest coming from so many parts of government, etc., that just was not there before. And I find that very, very inspiring, motivating, really. I just hope that they don't. I'm very conscious of like not wanting people to get the wrong first experience and then putting them off. So yeah, I'm sure everyone's feeling that way, but a researcher in VR, that's good. Is anyone here researching embodiment? Perhaps.
Yeah, I'm happy to share anything we've done before on that. I know Avi, my co-founder, runs the UCD VR lab, and they've done a lot of work on that. But there's definitely some names in here I know doing some awesome work here. So someone please shout out.
Identity perspective, that's really interesting. There's so many conversations that still need to be had and so much work that still needs to be had around diversity in the industry and also around ethics as well. And especially ethics, I think, around the capture of biometric data, which is coming on a much bigger scale, and what that means. And I think that was a good point earlier about there not being any standards. And I think that is kind of a barrier to larger adoption. I mean, there's a combination of things. There's the ethics issue, there's the security piece, there's the no having standards for all of that. There's so much work to be done. Okay, Alex Schaefer is investigating how to bring as much nonverbal communication as possible to virtual meetings. That's fantastic. Alex, you should really look up the research that's being done at Goldsmiths with AI-driven characters, because that's kind of what they're working on as well. It's really interesting stuff they're doing. They did a piece that was funded by R&D money from the government in partnership with some others, They did the Peaky Blinders show, and it was an AI-driven character experiment. But it does focus on nonverbal communication. Very interesting. I'm just going to double check the time for the next talk. Okay, we have another couple minutes.
Where's everybody from? Are you, I know that some of us are from Europe, some of us are from the States. This always works to spend the time. Can you guys type where you're from? And oh wow, not far away.
Could it be possible? Could it be counterproductive to try to reach high levels of realism because of the possibility of falling into the uncanny valley? I think it would be counterproductive right now, for sure, because it's not possible. And I think that as we're seeing from all of the testing and iterating that's been going on with these platforms over the last weeks, like there's a lot of work to be done to get functionality first, and then go from there. And there's also a lot of there's still also the issue of the UX of this stuff. I mean, we're still doing 2D things in 3D platforms. So like we're still watching 2D presentations in a 3D world, for example, and you're still having to click a mouse and type on a keyboard. You know what I mean? So designing for a whole new set of interacting in a 3D world and changing those habits, that's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time, because if you do that now, none of the early adopters, all of us, we're thrilled, and we're thrilled to try it, but and help to be the people who stress test that stuff. But normal people are not going to be into that. They're not going to get it. They're barely getting what we're doing now. So I think there was an interesting comment earlier about user access and being hand holding the person through their first experience. I think that's really important. So we almost have to get people through these first versions, and then it's like a very big shift we need to happen. Nice. Malaysia, Norway, France, Mauritius, Spain, Ireland, Germany. This is great. Jordan. Love this.
If it wasn't in VR, would have you came to the conference in France, or it's because it's in VR that it allowed you to actually be here and to participate, where you wouldn't have had that opportunity if it was in the physical world?
Makes it more realistic with a bit of jet lag.
Yeah.
That's great. Has everybody figured out their dance function, by the way? Like, have you guys seen this?
Oh yes, please, but don't press the dance function during the conference.
Hang on a second. I'm gonna do a thing.
It's F7. F7.
For anyone who hasn't. Don't see a lot of Gangnam Style usually at conferences. That's new for me. Oh, you learned how to do the flip. Does everyone want to get up and do a backflip? We should all just do a little exercise.
You have to just write in the public chat /flip, and then you can do the flip thing.
Yes, someone's trying to jump in their seat. Can anyone who can do the backflip? Get up and try. Who was it who said they could do it? Yes, backflip. How do you do that again? Oh my god, it's a room full of backflippers now. I love it.
You write /flip.
Gymnastic break.
Yeah. We're doing exercise, people. We're being active. Even in VR.
No, but it should. Somebody record it.
Oh, this has been, by the way, this is all being recorded live.
I guess you just have to screen record.
No, but
okay, I'm going to record it right now.
Yeah, the conference is
Everybody
streamed live on YouTube.
For me. And I'm going to do a dance. Oh, okay, so we are on YouTube. Okay, so we do look crazy. Fantastic. Okay, wait, somebody tell me how to backflip. How did you do that? I forget the key now. Oh, somebody just did breakdancing too. Oh, yeah, that's right. Something flip. Yes. 10 out of 10. Does anyone else have any other industry questions, or does anyone else doing any interesting research in the industry maybe that they want anyone else to know about or check out? I think, you know, the panel is going to be at 12:20, I believe. I'll double check that.
All right, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for having us this morning. It's really the morning for me because I'm currently in New York. I see that there are people from everywhere around the world. Some of you are probably also somewhere in the middle of the night. So my name is Gaspard GIROUD, and I am the founder of a company called Garou. And Garou is actually a tribute to a French book called The Passe Muraille, where the hero, the unlikely hero, has the ability to walk through walls. And whenever he goes to secret places, he leaves a message. He signs Garou, Garou, right? So he would go inside a prison, he would go inside a jewelry store, or anywhere really anywhere he likes freely. And we thought that our virtual reality project would allow us to access any place in the world without walls. So we called it Garou as a tribute to that book. So we can go to the next frame. All right, so the project that I will present today is a high fidelity multi-user virtual reality platform. So let's go to next. I have to look back at the screen, sorry. Right, so one thing particular about Garou is that we are opening it, after building it for 4 years, we are opening it to content creators. So it means that brands and industries, as well as content creators, can create their virtual reality universe and push it to the platform. The only condition at this stage is that it has to be built into the Unreal Engine, and it has to be really high fidelity. We have sort of like the highest fidelity standards for in virtual reality. So if you can go to the next frame. All right, so there are two problems that we identified. Is that if you create non-gaming virtual reality that is a really high fidelity, very beautiful, realistic work, you really don't have a place where you can publish it. And if you are a brand, the platform that exists are really not made for that type of content, right? So let's say if you are an auto manufacturer and you want to show your products, the current platform that exists are not really well suited for that, because very often they are low fidelity, visually quite poor. It looks like a gaming environment from, you know, the 90s. So we didn't think that was appropriate for brands to push their product, right? And so we have a couple of examples here. VR chat or, you know, ad space VR, high fidelity went, you know, got sold and no longer exists. But typically this is a little bit like the look and feel that you would get on a multi-user virtual reality platform. So we can go to the next frame. Next slide, sorry. All right, so I already said that, right? What we're building is high fidelity, and it is multi-user. So over the past few years, we built enough content to prove the concept, but also we built a proprietary multi-user network. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so this is what we propose. That is different from what you have in current multi-user platforms. What you're looking at is a Tesla dealership that we have built in Garou, and the way it looks on the frame here is untouched. We didn't Photoshop or we did not do any post-production on that still. If you step into Garou and you can go into the in that dealership, you will find it just like that, and it's multi-user. You can go there with your friends, and you can also open the doors of the car, take photos, and do other things that you could do as well in real life. So we can go to the next frame. All right, this is a project we did for Macy's in New York. Macy's has the world famous Macy's parade, where they blow up these massive balloons and walk them down New York avenues. I think they start in Central Park and go down through Times Square. And we did a pilot with Macy's where you could actually come and see the Macy's parade in virtual reality. What is very important for us, again, is the visual quality that shows that when you take photos of that event in VR, you might, it might blur the line between the real event and the virtual reality event. And that's our goal, is that you can, you can access it from anywhere around the world with anybody, with your friends, family, or the general public, and you can create content, user-generated content, and publish it, and people might get confused as if it's the real thing or if it's the virtual reality version, the digital twin. We can go to the next frame. All right, so another project that we worked on in New York is the future Penn Station. Penn Station is one of the two biggest train stations in Manhattan. One is Grand Central, that everybody knows from the movies. And the reason people know a little bit less about Penn Station is that it's much less glamorous. It's a really like a maze of corridors and a very unpleasant place to be in. The city of New York is rebuilding Penn Station. It's taking an entire block of New York that is next to the current train station, and it's building a proper train hall, which is very majestic and a massive public space. So we worked on that, but when we worked on it, I don't have a frame to show it, but it is in Garou if you want to go see it. And so when we built it, we thought it would be really cool to go visit the one that was destroyed in '63, the previous train station that was there, because it was an absolutely gorgeous building. And so you can go sit in Garou today. We could walk there together after this conference. And what happens is that because you're visiting a building that is no longer here, we put a $1 so that, we had to, because you're basically traveling through time. We can go to the next frame. All right, one other project that we built is the Oculus at the World Trade Center. So that is a massive project. It's a $4 billion project that was designed by world famous architect Santiago Calatrava. And and we worked with the construction company as well, AECOM, that built it, and now we have a digital twin of that space. Again, what is very important to us is the visual quality. It has to be as good as it could be with you know, with what the hardware can deliver, basically what the graphic card can handle. So again, we can meet there right now. It looks empty, but it is multi-user, and you step in it with the headset, you will experience it exactly like you see it in the photo. We can go to the next frame. So at this stage, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me or everything is going well, because there's no feedback through that medium. So I just want to make sure everything is okay. All right. Anybody, any question at this point? You want to stop me if there's any feedback that is important at this stage? All is good?
Good.
All right, perfect. So next frame. All right, so what is important again is that, let me double check. What is interesting about the period where we are at Garou is that we're starting to open the platform to third-party content. Up to now, we have created about 3 hours of content to visit, all very high fidelity, and that corresponds to like about 25 places. And we started by building on a white map of Manhattan in New York. So when you get inside the app, the Garou app, then you find yourself in a giant 3D map of New York that you can explore, that you can visit walking around. And then from that map, you can access experiences, the Museum of Natural History, the Guggenheim, the Oculus that you saw, the new Penn Station, the old Penn Station, and so on, right? But we're just opening it now to creators. So that's an important step for us. It's a big milestone. We can go to the next frame. Also, yeah, that's good. All right, so this shot, we have a Polaroid camera in VR. So this shot again was pretty much untouched, but I think it was with either Verizon or NVIDIA Verizon. We went to visit Central Park in Garou, and you can take photos. And I took that shot myself with a Polaroid camera in VR. The concept here is that we're opening it to creators, but also very importantly, brands and commercial project, right? So if you have a product and you think it is relevant to have a spatial computing presence, and you want to have your digital presence to be a 3D immersive experience, then this is the sort of like the platform where we invite you to publish. So let's go to next. All right, so this is maybe less interesting for you guys, but what we did is that we sort of simplified the publishing process in Garou. This is more like for the creators, but basically what we have is a SDK or a template. You bring your 3D environment. It needs to be very polished, very, very beautiful. You put it in our template, and then you can publish it to the platform. All the tools that we're building are already built in. So it's not 3 clicks, but it is a process by which publishing is going to get easier over time. What is interesting, I didn't bring it up, but do you see the background image where you see somebody standing on the gargoyle of the Chrysler building in New York? That is also an experience that you can have in Garou. That's a very vertiginous experience. You can literally walk there, and you can go there with friends. So it's a lot of fun. Very often, that's the first thing that people do in Garou, is that they go hop onto the gargoyle of the Chrysler building. Now we can go to next. All right, so these are some of our clients. We have Macy's for WeWork before they were, they had this problem that was 2 years ago. We created a future We Live space for them in Japan. So that's what you see. So very importantly, we work for the SNCF, because after the SNCF saw the project that we did in New York for the train station, for Penn Station in New York, they really liked it and they pretty much called us the same day. Immediately after seeing it, they got really interested in doing something similar in France. We spoke about the Gare du Nord in Paris, which will be a massive project that will be, I did not know that, but will be the biggest European train station. Actually, I believe it is the biggest European train station. So we talked about doing this project. Project was not ready, so we worked on another train station, the Nantes train station. So as of today, in Garou, thanks to the SNCF, you can go visit the future train station of Nantes, which should be opening about now. When we built it, it was not open. And that was designed by well-known architect called Rudy Ricciotti from the south of France, but international reputation. And that's a fantastic project because you can actually go there, even if you're in Paris, in Hong Kong, or in Japan, you can go into the train station. And the plan would be to build more of this train station and more digital twin for the SNCF. Let me see what other projects are interesting. We work with Fujitsu in Japan, and we worked with BASF, which is the biggest, I believe, one of the biggest chemical group in the world. We work with Viacom CBS in New York. So we have quite a few Fortune 500 clients. Now we can go to the next frame. All right, so these are sort of cute. These are photos that I or my team has shot with a Polaroid camera that we have in virtual reality. They receive very minimal post-production, but basically that's a little bit what the Garou world looks like when you're in it, right? So you have the Guggenheim, you have the Museum of Natural History. On the far left, you see the old Penn Station. At the bottom left, you see the old Penn Station. On the bottom right, you see the future Penn Station, and you see our partners, NVIDIA, that makes graphic cards, as well as Verizon, the telecom company, are visiting Garou, and they're our partners. And progressively, we're going to open it to users, right? So let's go to the next frame. All right, so this one is interesting because this was the first third-party publisher that put their environment in Garou. We picked a Ukrainian company that was doing absolutely fantastic work in virtual reality, and we invited them to publish in Garou. So they're the first third-party publisher. We didn't touch that space. We just imported it and published in the platform. So now everybody can go and meet there. So we can go to the next frame. All right, so this is a little bit less important, how the revenue works in Garou, but basically, ultimately, Garou, intends to be a social network for consumers to go and visit their, friends and look for the products that they're interested in. Let's go next to the next frame. We can skip that frame and go to the next one. So where do we fit on the sort of like the virtual reality landscape. Well, you know, we're on the upper right corner of that chart because Garou is retentive and multi-user, but it's also not gaming. It's an enterprise and consumer application. Sometimes you have high fidelity content in virtual reality, but it tends to be more in gaming, and that's not where we are. We're completely consumers and an enterprise. So let's go to the next frame. All right, so this frame to me is very important because from a long time ago, we identified there will be, you know, 3 stages on our roadmap, 3 ages really. One was to build the foundation, what we have today, which is a functioning prototype, and that would be, you know, a high fidelity and multi-user and scalable. And we would test third-party publishing, and we did all that. Now we're opening to the builder's age. Builder's age is where we take third-party content and we grow the platform and multiply the content so that you have an infinite amount of content. And finally, when we have that ready and there is adoption in the virtual reality space, so it's not just us, it's just the, you know, the entire world that is has headset at home, then we can open to the consumers. So we expect that to be probably 2 product cycles away, you know, when maybe the Quest or the Rift, you know, have entered every home, and that we expect that to be probably 2 or 3 years away. If we go to the next frame. All right, so these are our partner. Epic Games is very important for us because we're building on the Unreal Engine. They have been incredibly supportive. They called us best in class VR. They invited us to present in London. They are an amazing company that allows to create very, very high fidelity graphics for games and obviously projects like this one. The second partner is Verizon. It's a telecom company, one of the biggest telecom company in the United States. And we are very close as well because they had a competition last year to find the startup that would best showcase 5G and showcase what 5G could do, you know, would enable to consumers. And they did a nationwide competition. 550 companies applied and submitted their work, and we finished second, and we awarded Garou awarded $500,000 in cash prize, and we are their partners because we're powering Garou with 5G. So in the next few months, we will release with Verizon a new prototype where Garou is powered by 5G. Next frame, which is the last frame, and I think I'm right on time for once. So this is our team. I'm very proud of the team because it's very diverse. Culturally, people come from very, very different background. It's also very mixed because half of our employees are female. So we have just as many guys as we have women in the company. They're ridiculously talented, all of them. So I'm very, very happy with the team we have. So that's it. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to all this. If you are interested to get in touch with Garou, you can send me an email. My email is Gaspard, Gaspard, @garou.io.
Thank you so much for that. Then you want to answer a few questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does anyone have it? Okay, so I think we have a couple here. The first is, what is the headset you use the most?
All right, so that's a very important question. I did not cover that. So Garou is very heavy and very sort of like high fidelity. You know, that's the whole point of the presentation. So right now we support natively. If you go in Garou, you're going to need a Rift S and or HTC Vive or Valve Index or Vario, like kind of like the high-end headsets, and it's tethered to a computer. But we're going to make it cross-platform, and we can do project in the Quest. So if we start to work together tomorrow, we can produce it for the Quest as well. But right now, Garou, as you said,
Reverb?
I'm sorry?
Have you tried Reverb?
Nope.
No. Okay.
But we can, I'm sure there's other headsets that will support, you know, HP or anything. We right now, on top of my head, we will have to just remap the controllers. But basically what we're doing is PCVR.
Okay. The other question here is, well done, very well. Okay, Unreal Engine is a really nice engine, but when I look for large audiences, will this run on a standalone Quest? Do you need more time? Need 3 RTX 2080 strapped together? Do you have that focus, or do you supply high-end display solutions to your clients for your projects? So how do you solve the problem that people actually technically experience your high fidelity experience?
No, that's a fantastic question. It's a very fair question. So yes, we have been focusing on PCVR. You need to have a good experience in Garou. You need a 1080 card, NVIDIA 1080 card. I forget to say NVIDIA is also a partner. Yes, it is PCVR. Needs a good graphic card. What we can do is that the multi-user network that we have, you know, we can make it work for other devices, and we can, you know, what we can do too is that we have a companion app, which is a mobile app that lets you connect to the world. We're going to do video streaming from there. You're going to be able to do video conferencing from them, so you have access to mobile. You can already play it on PC. But we have to work a little bit on the controls. It's going to get more and more cross-platform. And if you wanted to have the project in the Quest tomorrow, we can. We just have to have a lower level of detail. And, you know, it might not go just as polished as what you have in Garou, but we can absolutely do it. It's just a way we're going to build it. What we do is that ultimately think that, you know, when the users arrive, the device will be ready to handle Garou. So that's the bet we're making. It's a big bet. We might be wrong. We might miss it, but that's the bet we're doing, is that we want to stick to high quality, because we think that 2 or 3 years from now, it will be what people want to experience.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Gaspard. That was excellent. Appreciate it. If you have any further questions for Gaspard, he will be back on the panel shortly. So next up.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
And so next up, we have Matt CHACON from Doghead Simulations, the founder of the RUMII platform. So he'll be coming up to discuss that, and then we will follow with the panel. Come on up, Matt, and you can get your slides ready. There you go. There you are.
Hey everyone, my slides up here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Okay.
Yep, that's great.
Oh, perfect. Alrighty, let me get my slides going here.
For anybody who doesn't see the slides, please press on the refresh button on the top right corner of the middle screen. Thank you.
Alrighty. All right, excellent. All right, well, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. My name, first of all, thank you all for at Laval Virtual for asking me to present here today. Truly appreciate it. I'm in Seattle, Washington, so it's a little after 3 a.m. my time, a little bit early, but welcome, everyone. Alrighty, so the presentation I'm going to I'm going to present to you today is how to decrease your costs significantly and increase your productivity using VR. And I'll be using data from my own company over the last 4 years. So let's get started. All right. So just making sure you can see the transition there. Before we continue, to make sure it's working for everyone, the slide transition. I think it's okay. I'm going to assume everyone can see that. Okay, let's get going. All right, so who am I and why should you care? So as they introduced, my name is Matt CHACON, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Doghead Simulations. And we make a virtual reality education and training platform named RUMII. So there's some other information there. Feel free to look me up, but please also feel free to connect with me on Twitter if you like, at the VR CEO. And you can also find me on LinkedIn if you just type in my name, Matt CHACON. And first name is spelled like yoga mat. So just M-A-T, 1 T, and CHACON. All right, so let's get started. We make a virtual reality education and training platform named RUMII. So there's some information there. Happy to make the slides available to anyone that would like it, but please also feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at the VR CEO, or just reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can search for my name, M-A-T, it's like yoga mat, and last name is CHACON. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we all know that our pre-pandemic worldview has been totally shattered and that we need to adopt our strategies for an in-pandemic and a post-pandemic reality. All right, next slide. So we're in this new reality where working from home, as we're currently experiencing, is the new reality. And I would say that we can all agree that COVID-19 is the leader of our digital transformation, quite unexpectedly at a lot of companies. So we, as companies, a lot of us have frozen our budgets. Unfortunately, some are laying people off. And what we need to be doing is developing strategies that help us navigate this new reality and stay nimble enough to course correct as things change in an in-pandemic and post-pandemic world. All right, next slide. All right, so I would strongly encourage everyone to have an XR strategy, and I liken it to mobile computing. So when mobile phones first came out, we didn't know it yet when they were first released, but they eventually were going to replace desktop computing. So mobile computing didn't necessarily replace all of desktop computing, but it did replace a lot of aspects of desktop computing, and it certainly augments desktop computing. Well, spatial computing is doing the same thing for mobile computing. So having a strong XR strategy is going to help you navigate these new realities we find ourselves in. All right, next slide. So our company, because we've been working in VR for the past 4 years, when the pandemic hit, it presented a good news, bad news scenario for us. So the bad news is there's a pandemic. The good news is our users have increased well over 700% since it started. And this graph that you're seeing is because we were well positioned to absorb this new reality. I think now our users have increased well over 1,400% in new users. And this graph, I think, was from early April. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to show you some data from the past 4 years that was collected at my company on how we have, showing you how, because we haven't had an office in the past 4 years, since starting in 2016, we've been able to thrive in this new reality. And we're going to look at conference costs and physical office costs. So next slide. So we all know pre-pandemic, a typical conference cost was around $3,000. And the hidden cost there was the conference thrax or the conference flu that we all got. So moving forward, people are going to be very sensitive to cleanliness, and you know, they're going to be measuring all of their physical real world activities through the filter of a post-pandemic world. And it's a pretty easy proposition to say, I can spend $3,000 on something that may not get me the best ROI, or I can spend 15 bucks and do that same thing, but do it all month long, every single day. So that's what we did, and it's been helpful for our company. So next slide, please. All right, and one of the things you should be asking yourself is, what is my return on investment? Am I getting whatever that amount of money that you're spending on a physical office or a physical conference? Are you getting that same amount as a return on investment? The answer is probably no. Next slide. Going to burn through these quickly. So you can do, when you're working in VR, you can do all of the same things that you can do at a physical conference, but you can do them at much lower price points, and you can do them in VR. And you're shielded by the mask of an avatar. And we've seen people are much more open to expressing themselves, their true selves, than they would be otherwise. And the only thing that VR doesn't really replicate or replace, which I don't think is a bad thing, are the dinners and the happy hours. You know, those are important pieces of building a positive relationship. But you can still do 90% of what you would normally do at a conference when you're working in virtual reality. Next slide. So let's look at the cost for a physical office next. We're going to compare these, and again, this is data, real data over the last 4 years from my current company. So when we built our company in 2016, we looked at all of the areas where we had employees. So we hired some people, they were all remote, and we said, if we were to build a physical office at any one of those locations, what would it cost us? And this was the typical cost that came out in 2016 for a typical office space. Now, these prices are much higher now. We'll kind of see if that holds true, what's going to, given a post-pandemic world. But we do save, and we have saved around $108,000 every year for the past 4 years because we don't have a physical office. And that's just physical office space. Okay, next slide. So we asked this question in 2016, and it's 2020 and people were still doing that. So prior to the pandemic, we were wondering, why are you waking up with a screen, which is your phone? And then why are you opening your laptop? And then why do you drive to work? You know, with your car may or may not have a screen. Or if you're taking public transportation, you're still looking at a screen. And you get to the office and you stare at a screen all day. And then you repeat that process all the way back home. There's no reason to do that anymore. So we're all experiencing that right now, right? Like, we're all pretty productive, and we're realizing that it's 2020. We don't need to commute from screen to screen anymore, and we can introduce efficiencies by not doing so. Next slide. So because we don't work at a physical office, because we use our software RUMII VR as our office, we've seen an 80% reduction in business operation expenses. And we have all of the data to prove it, and I know it can be successful for your company as well. Okay, so next slide. So every year, because we don't have a physical office, we save just shy of $200,000 every single year, and we've been doing this for 4 straight years. And every year we reduced our carbon footprint by 81 metric tons. And I would say that's probably one of the most, that's something I'm very proud of, that we've been able to dramatically reduce our carbon footprint. and really actually help make the world a better place, regardless of what we're doing in education with our software. I think that's a good thing. All right, next slide. And you can actually see carbon footprint reductions if you look at the smog levels in LA and China. They've virtually disappeared because people are just not commuting to the office as much. So every year we actually gain a minimum of 30% productivity increases, and we grow by a little over 400% year over year, actually, and our monthly active users are increasing by almost the same amount. So we are, even though we don't go to a physical office, we're still able to realize dramatic productivity gains and offer a very high level of service to our customers and partners. All right, next slide. And we've also attended conferences around the world. So how do we do that? Well, there's typically someone at the conference booth when they're attending physically, and we just ask them to download RUMII. A lot of our partners or our brand ambassadors are there. We'll ask them to download RUMII and just invite us to interactions with their physical participants through VR. And we've been able to do that at the world's biggest conferences around the year for the past 4 years. All right, next slide. This is a typical setup, regardless if you're a speaker like I am now, or if you're an instructor, this actually represents a typical setup, and we would be happy to help you with this. But we've seen this specific setup be very successful for instructor-led distributed education or conferencing in VR. All right, next slide, please. And the nice thing is that all of the normal distractions that you have when working outside of VR and all of your personal prejudices are completely stripped away. In fact, we actually hired our entire staff of people in VR. So we didn't actually see their faces until 90 days after we hired them at our first in-company event, in-person company event. So I had no idea if they were a man or woman. I could kind of tell through vocal context, but we didn't even care about that. The only thing that matters was what was in their head and what was in their hearts, and it proved to be very successful for our company. All right, next slide. Simple math, right now our software is entirely free, but when we pre-pandemic, we were selling it at $14.99 per user per month. So it's very simple math. You can work all month long, you can meet all month long, you can conference all month long for $15 versus going to one 3-day conference for $3,000 or spending $108,000 a year on an office on average. All right, next slide. And this is the final slide. All right, and that's it. So I would encourage everyone to please, sorry, again, apologize for having this big, to spin through this so quickly because of technical issues at the beginning, but please reach out to us. You can reach us on email. You can contact me directly on Twitter, and reach me on LinkedIn. I'm very, very transparent and very open, so I encourage you to all reach out. All right, any questions?
There's one here that says, how open is the RUMII platform to make custom environments by third parties?
So great question. It's very open. So we're releasing an API this year specifically for that use case. We currently offer it as a very high-touch white label service where we expose our private API to you to do that, but we're releasing the API this year for that specific reason as part of our RUMII marketplace as well.
Do you have Oculus Quest support?
We do. We have Oculus Quest support through SideQuest. But we have an extremely good relationship with the folks at Oculus. The reason we are not on Oculus Quest is because the Oculus Quest is primarily positioned as a gaming-only platform. but we're working with them to get approval for a non-gaming platform because they did lock that down in 2019.
I'm going to save the next questions for when we have the panel. So
Sure.
I'm going to invite everyone back up to the stage. We're just a couple minutes behind here. If you want to take a seat, Matt, Jonny, Keith, and Gaspard, if you can also join us up here. And I'm going to introduce also Terry SCHUSSLER. Hang on one second. I'm just going to share a little screen here for everybody. While everyone gets here, I will put works. Can you see? That's right. Yeah, that's okay. So
Doesn't look anything like my avatar.
So yeah, this is Terry SCHUSSLER. He's the Senior Director of Spatial Computing for Deutsche Telekom and one of the masterminds behind XR Collaboration, which was a really great publication that was made in collaboration with, there were so many people, Deutsche Telekom, Qualcomm, Metaverse, Cleanbox, The Area, XR Bootcamp, AWE, and the VR ARA. And this is just a little infographic that they put together on kind of all the platforms that are available at the moment, or I'm assuming almost all of them. And I'm going to let Terry just do a little introduction and talk about LXR collaboration as a background, and then we'll jump into the questions for the panel.
Cool.
Go for it, Terry.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. The XR collaboration project was something that we started around mid-March. I was working on a research project internally on the topic, and I realized there was an opportunity to educate the world at large on how they could move past the potential value of video conferencing into a more immersive collaboration platform. And in doing that, I realized that it was going to take some time and effort, so I gathered together a group of volunteers, and we wrote a 60-page guide, which we published at the website. It's xrcollaboration.com. And on April 30th, we'll be launching an interactive product directory, which will not be a marketing tool. It will not be a biased ratings-based presentation of the tools. What we're doing is we're getting the data from each of the vendors, and then we're providing users of the website with an interactive way to query the directory for a short list of tools that match their needs, depending on the type of meeting that you want to have, the kind of collaboration you need to do, perhaps the industry you're in, and the specific functionality of the tool. So we're really trying to guide people holistically to understand the concepts, understand what AR and VR is, understand what collaboration means, and then ultimately help them help you self-select tools that you can use for your needs. So it's an ongoing project. We're going to be, continuously writing more content. We've got some specific areas that we're going to be expanding into, and in fact, I'll be driving some of the questions today based on some of the areas that we're diving into to get input. So that's pretty much it. And just as a background in terms of what I do at Deutsche Telekom, I drive spatial computing, which is really sort of a fancy way of saying XR. And I work in the 5G groups. I work with the head of 5G, really focusing on how we can make the user experience in AR, VR type of environments better with a more performant network and with computing on the network. So some of the things that some of the other panelists talked about in their products, we're actually holistically, focusing on offering everybody as value proposition for using the 5G connectivity that we're offering. That's it. No sales pitch, just background.
Yep, that's great. So we'll jump into the questions, and I'm going to ask the first one actually. And it's a good one since we're in a platform, Verbella, that is accessible on
both PCs and Mac. So the question is, given the difficulty in getting access to head-mounted displays and headsets right now, how important is it for all of you guys to offer wider platform support? So Mac, Windows, mobile, iOS, mobile OS, and do you foresee the advance of WebXR as a method for delivering your platform, if you haven't already?
Absolutely. You need to be on every platform, mainly from an enterprise point of view. You won't get through procurement if you're not on the devices that already exist today. And over at MEETINGROOM, sorry, I'm not sure if you knew who's speaking. It's Jonny here at the moment. We've been cross-platform since 2017, and it's at the very worst, it's a great entry point to getting people onto HMDs over the next few years.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. This is Matt CHACON with RUMII and Doghead simulations. Totally echo what Jonny is saying. And, you know, being device agnostic is very important, because if you're not solving the problems of the existing market incumbents, then you're already behind the curve. So people already expect to be able to have similar functionality that they're used to using Zoom and, you know, WhatsApp or, you know, whatever tool they happen to be using at the time. But I would say that regarding WebXR, I think we're a ways off from that simply because of capability. It's hard to replicate a similar immersive experience in a WebXR platform. But you know, time, money, people will solve that.
All right, I'll take the next question. So it was mentioned, one of the panelists talked about the fact that they, in fact, I think two of them did, that they sort of white label service new customer onboarding. But we've got a market exploding with potential demand. How do you expect to scale new users if you intend to onboard them individually? You know, one of the things that we know is that most people on this planet have never actually even seen an AR or VR headset, let alone tried it out. How do you plan on focusing, onboarding them into spatial computing as well as your software? The flow of a new user seems to be very important.
I'll take that one. This is Matt CHACON again. I'll be brief. Really, really good question. So as I showed on my presentation, you know, our users dramatically spiked over 700% since this thing started. And I believe, I haven't checked the latest analytics, but I know we're somewhere around, we're north of a 1400% increase in new users. So it's important to have, first of all, using VR you're not going to replace your entire workday with it. You're going to replace very specific work tasks with it right now anyway. So like I said, you need to view spatial computing right now as though it's a pair of night vision goggles, right? You're only going to use it on very mission specific activities. You're not going to wear them all day long or all night long. But what we've been doing, I would encourage everyone to do this. We've been very successful at having two children from employees of ours test our software. One is 5 years old and one is 8 years old. And
Nice.
our North Star is, look, if a 5-year-old can use this without us telling them how to use it, then and an 8-year-old, I think we're doing something right. So not saying we're doing all the things right, but it's a good direction to follow.
Anyone else?
Absolutely agree with Matt. You need to make sure people are getting a good first-time experience. I think everyone on stage has probably had a couple hundred or 1,000% increase in terms of users and that over the last few months, and it's fantastic for the industry as a prioritization. I think the key is going to be making sure that depending on the customer group you're working with, and it's very different for different customer groups, be it from education to large enterprise and everything in between. And you have to ensure that you're picking the right teams to start off with. You're not trying to sell a company 1,000 headsets from day one. You're trying to find that first team who's really going to find value and help spread that value and build up that political capital internally so you can go further over the next few years. And I think if you're looking to look at something in the past, this will be very similar to adoption of mobile phones, not in terms of millions and billions of people, but in terms of having companies buy a couple hundred every year and get more and more people on board until this does become ubiquitous across the next few years, not months. But I echo what Matt's saying. You have to look after your users. You have to ensure that they have a good time. And by that, I mean, solve the problem they're in to solve, not just say, hey, this is fantastic tech.
Really great. I have another question here about bandwidth and latency. So what are the requirements for your platform? And after the user has loaded a room or a space in your platform, what is the typical per user bandwidth needed? Pretty important comparing it to video conferencing.
Yeah, so I sorry to keep, I like to talk, so I'm happy to shut up anytime if anyone wants to interrupt me, but this is Matt CHACON again with RUMII. So we require a minimum of 8 meg up-down connection. So if you can stream like a YouTube video, you can use our software. So we have pretty low bandwidth, but I would say that bandwidth requirements overall for spatial computing tend to be relatively low because they're much lower than a video call. You know, sending a video, if you're having a video chat like a Zoom call or something, you're shoving a lot of data through the pipe. That's not necessary, quite frankly. So I'd probably say that we are all relatively low bandwidth, but I don't want to speak for everyone else.
No, you're spot on. The guys need to try to table to get a word in as well. Beside myself and Matt, but honestly, we're all in a low bandwidth platform right now, I'm pretty sure, because we're all having pretty good experiences. And it's very much a design choice. If you want to need a higher requirement, and some of the stuff in the future will require 5G and will require some of these things, but there's so much you can do here and now today. And most platforms should be coming in from a base standard of 3G and above. And as Matt said, if you can load a YouTube video, you should be able to get into one of these platforms.
All right, let me take the next question. So security in remote collaboration has massively become an important topic. Zoom bombing is a verb now. How do you address security overall in your platform, and how do you see that evolving over time?
Yeah, so again, this is Matt. I can start. So I myself have a background in counterintelligence, and so you know, when I built this company, information security was very, very much top of mind for us. So, and we have a lot of traction with the U.S. Department of Defense and consulates around the world. So it is important to be encrypted on both ends. So our platform is encrypted in motion, and we sit on encrypted cloud drives. And we're a very secure invite-only platform. So RUMII isn't a social platform. You can't even use us. You can't join a room unless you're specifically invited to join a room. And even joining that room has an end date. So you can't join it forever. So I'll just stop there. It's a very high secure platform.
So in short, you're using password protection and time-bound restrictions on access.
That's one of the many things we do, yes. We also encrypt all of the data back and forth.
Gaspard, do you want to speak to that security as well? Because you do work with lots of big corporate clients, like SNCF, for example. I'm sure so that's a big issue. Gaspard, I can't seem to hear you.
Hello. So, sorry. Yes. So, in the case of SNCF, it was not a big issue because the project was public in any way. So, publishing it was okay. Privacy, however, in the type of VR that we do, is a very big issue because you can track every joint in the body at any time. So, the amount of data you can gather is quite terrifying. So, I think that encryption is very important for virtual reality, especially when you have full-on immersive PCVR experiences where the whole body is engaged.
Great. Does anyone else want to take that question?
Yeah, I'll just jump in for a quick one there. Jonny from MEETINGROOM here. For us, you don't have a room unless it's the most secure room on the planet. That's the way we approach it at every point, and it will, like all of us are doing right now, it'll develop over time. But I think considering what we're seeing people's reactions to in the video conferencing world, just like we saw with social media, privacy comes first. And if you're trying to have a private conversation, we treat it very much like the conference in real life. If you're in WeWork or you're in Regis or you're in a hotel, what happens in your room stays in your room and it stays with you. We work exclusively with Fortune 500 companies, and it really matters, not just from are we private and are we secure. You're not in this business if you're not going from that from day one. But where we are having to fill gaps as an industry at the moment are things in compliance, things in terms of GDPR. We were the first platform on the planet, unfortunately, for the amount of effort it took to be GDPR compliant. Why? Because it is a new form of accounting that everyone has to do. But when it comes to just making sure that the right people get into the right place and have access to the right documents and people, that's where the power of these platforms are. And it's something we need to keep an eye on.
Great. I'm going to just drop in a quick audience question because it's a fast one. And it's just, how much time do you spend in VR on an average workday? You can each just say a number.
Ha!
Work or play?
I think both. I think both.
Both.
This is Matt CHACON. I personally spend on average 4.5 hours inside of VR HMD every day. So I'm not in it all the time, mainly because I'm testing in multiple platforms. But I also work out in VR every single morning at 4:30. So I'm in Seattle right now, and I've got 27 minutes before my workout starts. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
What is it you're using for your workout?
It depends. My HMDs get quite gross, so I switch between the Quest, an Oculus Go, and an HTC Vive. And I use everything from, I do yoga inside RUMII VR. By the way, if you're not doing yoga, you're just wrong. Everybody should be doing yoga. And I use VZ by VeerZoom for my cycling, for like endurance. And then I'll do a lot of like planks and burpees and stuff inside my Quest. It just depends on the application that I'm using.
I have two comments to that, Matt. Number one is get a clean box for your headsets. and second of all, your videos of you working out are becoming legendary.
Thank you. I appreciate that. By the way, everyone should get a clean box. Amy Hedrick and Melanie Hedrick both own that company, and they're total class acts, and they're doing something really important for this industry. So, but I really appreciate those comments, man. Thank you.
What's a clean box?
A clean box is a product that's designed specifically to clean AR and VR headsets, and what it does is it actually uses a nano coating to ensure that moisture doesn't get stuck on the device, on the lens, or on the straps. But it also kills 99.999% of all the bacteria and viruses and other contagions that might be on the device. So in today's age, very important.
Very important.
I put the URL for the website in the chat for people who are interested in it.
100%. I think in terms of time spent in the headsets, it really depends on the week, depending from a business point of view, if you're doing many meetings that week or not, and we all have different weeks. But from a real life point of view, echo what Matt's saying there, and Matt is brilliant online sharing this out there. I personally got to drop 30 kilos from doing stand-up meetings and playing Rec Room a little bit too much back in 2017. So
nice.
It's that I'm still far too large. But actually, the input that came out of that this year for me, VR has me using technology less, and I've actually taken up running this quarter, back in January, not just in pandemic times, mainly because of the kick that I got from virtual reality and things. And having that healthy mix, I think, is going to be so important, especially post-pandemic when we're all not locked down. The power now, though, is we can all socialize, just like we're doing now, only a bit more fun, as Matt was saying.
Asha, let me pose the next question if I could.
Go for it.
So one of the first things that people do when they get into any VR platform is personalize their avatar. And, we see quite a bit of difference in the sort of the realism level that you can have with avatars on different platforms. Do you see a market for monetizing avatar customization? And I'll give you some examples. The actual assets themselves, creating maybe a unified standard for avatar presentation, providing volumetric capture and rendering solutions as an integrated function of your platform, and even new job roles like digital fashion consultant or digital avatar consultant. Somebody actually designs your avatar for you professionally.
So I'll just answer that one. So Keith from Rainfall. Yeah, like designing clothes or different avatars for people and making money out of it is definitely something that's relevant. I do think it is happening a bit in VR chat, as VR chat is a very popular platform with a lot of avatars everywhere. So it's totally natural that that's something that's happening and going to happen more.
Yeah, this is Matt from with RUMII. I definitely agree that monetizing your avatar is an inevitability, and I think it's a good idea actually. I'm less so optimistic on paying someone to do it for you. Although I think that would be really cool. It's not a bad idea, but I'm not sure the market would bear such a demand right now. But hopefully I'm proven wrong on that.
As a follow-up question, I'm very interested to know a number of the companies or products that I've been reviewing for the directory are really focused on large enterprise use cases. Are you seeing with the kind of customers that come in, the top level executives, C-level teams that want to have meetings, that they're really pushing on the realism of their avatar? Do they care if they look like a dog or a robot, or are they really pushing on the demand for realism in the way that their avatars are represented?
Before the meeting, yes. After the meeting, probably not as much, but it really just depends.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jonny there, man. It also depends on the company. What we've seen, what we've seen overall, more holistically speaking, is in education and higher ed, no one seems to care. They actually like not showing their true selves, even the instructors. The enterprise, we get a lot of requests for like photogrammetry type realism in an avatar. And in the DoD, interestingly enough, they don't care. I would expect them to be worried about sock puppets and that sort of thing, but it hasn't been an issue. But enterprise, it depends on the company.
Nobody asks to be a piece of furniture hiding in the corner of the room.
Oh, that's a great idea. I would steal that.
Not exactly like that, but
That's evil.
By the way,
that is
Keith,
so evil.
By the way, Keith, you're actually sitting on me. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to jump in with the next question, if you don't mind, Carrie.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm going to kind of combine a few questions I have into one a little bit. So first of all, we think about comfort of headsets and, people not really maybe necessarily being able to wear them all day long. We just admitted that we don't all wear them all day long. It's a limited time thing. Also, there are kind of pain points in world where, for example, reading text is a bit difficult. Like I just went and made that background picture bigger. I was afraid people couldn't really read the text there. And so I guess the question is twofold. One is like, what do you guys hope to see in like the next generation headsets? What will be your kind of priorities to see change and updated? And also just general thoughts about accessibility and inclusion with these platforms.
Yes, Matt.
I
think
big questions.
Yeah, I think I'll take it from the back. I'll take it top down, I guess. Back. The accessibility first. Accessibility is very, very important. So we do need fixed off HMDs. However, we work with veterans that don't have two arms, and it's quite something to see a VR platform or to see a company say, hey, our HMD is fixed off and it requires two controllers, but then you give it to someone who's an otherwise healthy.
Oh, kind of
No,
went quiet.
yeah,
Just me?
just no. I think it's for a few. Sorry, I thought it was just me as well.
So no one's hearing Matt.
No.
No.
No, quick restart there.
Matt's
Matt.
gone again.
No
Yeah,
worries.
Matt-
He'll be back in a sec. Could you repeat the question there, please, just to make sure? Sorry, technical difficulties interrupt.
Does anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah. So what I'd hope for with VR headsets would be them being lighter, and maybe for some people, especially in enterprise, it looks a bit, when they put on a VR headset, they're a bit shy because they think that, okay, people looking at them, oh, they look kind of stupid. So having a slightly more like smaller, stylized, less weight, I think would help a lot.
Which
Great.
brings up a related question too, which is, everybody's, or I don't say everybody, but most of the products are focused on VR delivery. Do you see adopting the use of AR headsets and leveraging spatial computing, in room mapping, placing assets on the wall versus just in an arbitrary, VR space? See that in your roadmap?
So Keith from Rainfall. So we've 3D printed a Project North Star and we can specifically set it up, and we're working on combining the VR world with what we have already with a Project North Star. So definitely, we think that that's going to be, for some people, it's going to be better to do an AR because it feels more, you can be more present in the world, and I think that would be interesting.
Does anyone else want to
Nice
take it? I'm just
lightsaber.
like waiting for does anybody else want to take that question. Otherwise, I have another one.
I saw
Anyone?
I saw the
Go for it.
lightsaber pop up from Terry. It caught attention from an AR. Sorry, no, that's perfectly okay. I want one now. How do I do it? Anyway, the point is, from an accessibility point, back on what Matt said, absolutely spot on. Look, VR is not accessible to every single person right now on every single platform, and while that's not okay, people are pushing in the right way to get it there. But I think the industry as a whole has to stop depending on next year. It has to start depending on what we have right now. And right now we have really good accessibility, like we're all in here today, most of us from desktop. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to future headsets, be that AR, VR. Look, it's all PR at the moment, and it's fantastic that everyone is pushing it forward. But the point is, solve real problems, and nobody cares about how a light switch works. All they care about is, does it turn the light on? And in the same case here, whether it's VR or AR, and we have people ask that question to us every single day. It's a very good question to ask because we're trying to understand. But to put it in a slightly different way, right now the whole world is focused on a vaccine. There are multiple technologies being used for that. It doesn't matter which technology gets us there, it's that we get there. And to answer specifically on AR, we've got people who are using AR every single day. They're saving millions with it, and it's still a lab project. It will get there. But in terms of roadmaps, I think everyone on this stage probably has it on their roadmap, but it's when the users can actually get access to it and use it. And we started off the conversation talking about VR. So in terms of bringing it all together, we don't need to be saying AR versus VR. We need to be talking about all of us moving forward and many hands making light work.
Yeah, this is Matt. All I have to say is preach the word, my brother. Great comments, man.
I have a Terry. Do you want to? Do you have a question? I don't want to like take all the questions.
No. Go ahead. I've got
okay.
one more coming.
Okay, cool. So this one is specifically about 5G and you know, how is it benefiting your platforms? What do you see and coming from it? And are, like, for example, are you remotely rendering the VR content? And I'd love to hear from Gaspard first, because I know you won the Verizon Built on 5G challenge. A little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So for us, it's absolutely critical. We think that in general, spatial computing, real-time rendering, and the XR industry will actually can thrive only through 5G, right? Because everything that we do tends to be heavier than 2D, you know, pixel canvas. That is the digital world now. So not only you have to pull very large data sets, right? We're talking about like going from like megs to gigs quite fast in order to be able to access it. And then you need low latency, because a lot of these assets actually render in real time. So you need to be able to have a large amount of data and also traveling really fast, right? So the part of the reason why Verizon picked us is because we're a good case study for that, because our worlds are, you know, very large, and in order for Garou to scale, you would need to have 5G enabled. Otherwise, it's just too big and too heavy for what's currently available to access, you know, fast. So yes, I mean, I think 5G really, and I think that's the transformative part of 5G. I think that the current 4G is delivering the experiences that customers want now. So like, meaning that if you download a feature film or if you're watching a Netflix TV show, you might get the spinning wheel, but that's not frustrating the current consumer as much. So what really is what 5G can bring? It's probably going to be access to the spatial computing world and having a completely transformative experience, which is different from what we have now.
Yeah, this is Matt CHACON again. I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think where the rubber really meets the road in 5G is in driving content innovation. I think, you know, as always, content is king. We're going to have much more high quality and impactful spatial computing interactions through good content that takes advantage of the high speed, low latency of 5G. But I think it's really going to bring dramatic improvements in traffic capacity and network efficiency. And those two things specifically are going to help us provide much more higher quality, immersive, distributed environments. I mean, we're seeing right now, right, that people are no longer going to work in school. They're simply attending work in school. You know, they can attend by slipping on an HMD, or they can attend by throwing open their computer. And 5G is going to help with that. But I think we might have a bit of a long road to hoe with 5G, because I know that, you know, depending on where you are in the world, you're still hitting 3G network spots. So yeah, it's going to take some time.
Actually, 40% of the world's on 2G right now.
Exactly. And if we all remember the 3G pitch, it was to fix video conferencing, and that really worked. So let's just remember, everyone, like, I mean, 5G, I couldn't be more of a proponent of that technology. Any G that gets us moving things faster. But we absolutely have to not put crutches under an industry. Let's call it the VR industry at the moment, or XR. We need to make use of what we have now. And if you're building for something for 3 years' time and hoping, it's fantastic, and we all live in hope, and everyone on the stage and in the crowd is pushing this forward. But you have to look at it. What can you do today? How can you build up that political capital, so that when we do get remote rendering, when we do get all these fantastic things that are going to come out of these things, that it's accessible to everybody. Because remember, with the power of XR, collaboration means global communication, not just time zone diversity, but actually people coming in from different places. And you're going to have people coming in from Ballygo backwards here in Ireland who might have a 3G or a 2G call. And we do have 5G here as well, to be very clear. But you're also going to have different people coming in from different places, from a busy office with a lot of people on the same network to someone who's out in a remote part of the world being the best expert they can be where they want to be.
That's great.
I just want to jump in with one quick plug on the 5G thing. Just because the UK government has a really big R&D grant call out right now called 5G Create, and you can apply in a consortium to get 250,000 up to I think 5 million per project to basically, demonstrate 5G use cases. And this is in the creative sector, the immersive industry is the best place to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case anyone has any questions about it in the audience or is from the UK and wants to know. Please, you can email me separately. Also, Terry, I kind of wanted to ask, do you have any plans to do like a 5G challenge like Verizon did? My cheeky ask that.
Well, I was going to be Oprah and go, you get 5G and you get 5G.
Brilliant.
No, I mean, we're working very aggressively. We just announced, actually, I think yesterday in Germany, intent to cover over 50% of the German population by the end of the year, which is a significant acceleration on our part. T-Mobile US, which is our daughter company in the United States, has 200 million people covered with some level of 5G connectivity. So it's coming fast. I think there's more to 5G than bandwidth, though. It's also reliability of service and latency on the network and density on the network and a bunch of other things that people don't usually think about. Most people just think about the bandwidth because that's the easy one.
Spot on.
Yeah. So I actually have I think maybe it might be my last question depending on our time here, but I wanted to drill in on what drives, because I'm watching some of the questions that come in the public space too and kind of folding that into this. What are the features and use cases that drive the most traction, have the most value with users? Because what a lot of people are trying to figure out how to create traction in enterprise with HMDs and getting them from pilot to really real use. So what are you finding that users are having the most traction with in terms of features or use cases, ways to use your tool, types of meetings, let's say?
We got two things coming up with the big trend right now, which is remote problem solving. And client face-to-face, which has obviously been exacerbated over the last few weeks in the services industry. But I suppose the best feature we found is our discovery session. Before we let anyone near a headset or near the platform, actually figuring out is there a problem they want to solve, especially in the large enterprise space. If people are coming to just say we want to use VR, it's a very good chance of failure. If they have an actual problem they want to solve, that's the feature you try to focus in on and build a room around that problem case, as opposed to say how many features can we jam in there.
Got it.
Yeah, I agree. This is Matt. Totally agree with that. Like I said, you need to be very mission specific with your VR experience or your XR experience. So I encourage everyone to build as though you're looking through night vision goggles, be very focused, very niche. But where we've seen tremendous traction is in education and training, specifically in math, physics, and language. So if you can crack those nuts, I think those make a lot of sense. Because they like teaching, imagine trying to teach someone about vector math. When you're explaining when you're explaining a Euclidean vector and you're trying to show like dot product, like it's a complicated topic to teach on a 2D whiteboard. But when you can immerse someone around a 3-dimensional Cartesian plane, like the light bulbs go off much quicker. And we have multiple use cases showing that from our customers. But be very specific, be very laser focused, and try to make popcorn. Don't grow the corn and make the popcorn and make the butter and make the oil. Yeah.
Spot on.
Did you see the math lesson in Half-Life Alyx?
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Like I wanted that teacher as a kid. Like, come on, everyone should be wanting to be. That's a true storyteller.
Every kid will want to learn math. It's like it's brilliant. I love it.
Like Matt, you better be tracking him down for RUMII, because I mean, just obviously that kind of thing is just amazing. And again, I think Matt said it there again. Just keeping it simple, not trying to grow the corn is the best way I've heard it put in a while. And it is make popcorn all damn day.
One of the best tools that I've ever seen for visualizing math is Wolfram Alpha, and I put a link to a page on their website where they talk about how they've integrated the Wolfram language into Unity. So for those who are curious about pushing on that particular angle, definitely a ton of opportunity there.
Awesome.
Just like I think we're just at the end, but we can ask like one audience question, Terry, to end. What do you think? Unless we're kind of over time. We're kind of.
One was when will XR collaboration is coming to Asia? If it's referring to the publication, I want to point out that we are intending to make it multilingual in the summertime. We're modifying the way we're delivering the content to be a multilingual WordPress and headless WordPress engine that will feed the document out in 8 languages. Initially.
Very cool.
If you're talking about the tools themselves, a lot of them already are multilingual. I don't know about the panelists here, though.
There's another great question here about how to convince enterprise clients to procure mass numbers of HMDs to increase XR adoption within the organization. I'm going to jump in and just say I think most people here would agree that I mean it's going to be difficult to get mass quantities of HMDs at the moment, but for anyone. But I think the first step is you need to like get decision makers trying it. You have to get them in a headset and show them what the value is and the use case, and you can't talk about it. Don't for God's sakes do a PowerPoint presentation about it to them. That is the worst thing you can do.
Yes.
Actually, if I can recommend, and I don't like, no, I'm not plugging this for a particular reason, but I will tell you that the Vader Immortal chapter series on the Quest is a hugely powerful way to give people a sense of the potential visual quality as well as the locomotion format. They really get it. If you want to get them to understand it, put it on their head for 5 minutes.
Mohan Leho from the ILMX lab is an absolute genius. He did a masterclass in the UK for the Story Futures Academy, and I don't know if there's a recording of it somewhere, but if you can get your hands on it, it's absolutely brilliant. Talking about storytelling and how to do good content for immersive. It's excellent stuff.
I'll also speak to this point very, very short. I'm the tip of the spear for the company when it comes to head-worn devices, and one of the things that I've done is bring new devices into our executive meetings every quarter when I could travel, and I make them put them on their head, and I show them what a good experience looks like. If you don't do that, if you just show the device, they'll never get it and they won't buy into it. But if you make them try it out and then you show them a wow moment, they will understand. And that is the meaningful thing. The other thing tied to that is that when you do that, if you can in any way, also show a spectator view to everybody else of what that person's seeing. Super important that you use the Quest Streamcast feature and pump it to your personal Facebook page if you have to, and put that on a browser window or whatever. But show other people what that person's seeing. Otherwise, you got 19 people watching one person with a headset on, and they have no idea what the experience is.
The other part of it is back that up completely, Terry. Get everyone in a headset, because if they don't, there's no point talking about virtual reality, meeting rooms, conferences, or whatever it might be, if they're not going to try a virtual reality headset. It's a very good qualifier for you that you're going to be wasting your time, whether it's one of the biggest companies in the world or whatever your customer base might be. But the other side of it is, iPad Pro is probably one of the greatest entry points in for HMDs, because everyone's been trained really well on how to use it, especially at C-suite, middle management and above. It's very powerful because you can do a lot of the same things you do in there, but without obviously all of the immersive features. The last point to make on that is, don't just try and sell your own product. it's really easy to fall into that hole, and we all do it. But in terms of showing people what this can mean to their lives, showing them what Beat Saber is. If you're the first person to show someone Beat Saber, they're never going to forget you. In the same way, if you're the first person to put on a headset, they are not going to forget you. And open invitation to all. I think Matt, we're chatting on WhatsApp. It's definitely going to happen at some point. We do VR paintball sessions every other week in Rec Room. Add me on VR for Work if you do want to join. But in terms of really socializing this stuff, this is what it's about. VR for work, VR for whatever we're talking about. It's showing how this implements into the real world, not just once we're in a conference just like this in a very specific use case. Does that make sense?
Totally, man. This is Matt. I absolutely echo those sentiments. Looking forward to crushing you in paintball, by the way. But
Bring it.
I think everyone. I really echo the sentiment of competition. We need good competition in this market in order to prove that a market exists, and showing other experiences. Jonny and I, for all intents and purposes, are competitors, but we're actually friends. We've never met in real life, but we're friends over VR, and we're both CEOs of what could be considered competing companies. But look, man, he's got a great product. I've got a great product. Like, there's plenty of opportunity for everyone here to win in this space, and we should be promoting that because we need good competition for the market to succeed. And I will say this, I love what one of the other moderator was saying about, showing, like getting people in VR. What the way we do it I love your comments on that. The way we do it at RUMII is, we say that the HMD are the swimming trunks and the VR experiences are the swimming pool. You can't tell someone how to swim. You actually have to get them in the water. So it's the only way that's going to work out.
The color blue is lovely, but it's hard to imagine it.
Yep.
I think that's a great point to end on, guys. This was a really great talk. I like the great community spirit aspect of the end there. I think it's something that I love the most. I said at the beginning, it's one of the things I love the most about this industry, how supportive people are of each other, and really working together to push the whole industry forward. So really great, great point. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you all for joining the panel. Really appreciate it. For Terry.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks to our moderators.
Should we come up and have a little dance? Everybody get up and maybe shake it off a little bit?
Yeah, everyone stand up together. This is the industry standing up to make it move forward.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, awesome job on moderating both of you.
Thank
you just crushed it.
Thanks, guys.
That was great. Thanks, everyone.
Nailed it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining, too. That was great.
Yeah.
Cool. Very nice.
Break dance is one as well. Love it.
You guys see my screen? Yeah, quick on the.
We do.
We're talking about how to get people into VR. So this is a project we did for Marine Harvest. They ordered 20 VR headsets. And one of the big reasons why they were able to do it was because the cost went down with the Oculus Go and the Oculus Quest.
Nice.
Love it.
Awesome. Love it.
Love it.
Right on.
Well done, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Cool.
Super pleasure. Appreciate it. Thank you,
Yeah.
audience.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
See you.
all soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a million. Bye.
Later.